Alright then guys, welcome to this video today, A-level physics, and it's just a quick one today on the scientific process. Like I said, it's very quick and simple. It's mainly just common sense and just a bit of assumed GCSE knowledge really. I've actually had a few students ask me, is this actually relevant? But yeah, basically it is. For a reference, it is pages 2 and 3 of the CGP guide. So if I just show that quick, if it actually focuses. Yeah, there we go. Right, so just going to skim through it. So basically we're going to start with, what is the point in science? So what is the point? So basically, we use science to explain the universe and how it works. So, how everything works. Okay? So, basically, scientists, they are people that come up with theories and they test a hypothesis. So an example of a theory would be the Big Bang Theory. Let me just move that over a tad. There we go. So yeah, the Big Bang Theory. So the theory of how the universe started. So yeah, scientists come up with a hypothesis. They then carry out a test. So this would be, for example, when trying to figure out whether light was a particle or a wave, the Young's double slit experiment was used, and that was the test that could prove or disprove that hypothesis of whether light is a particle or a wave. And then we use those tests to obtain evidence to prove or disprove a hypothesis. So, for example, evidence of the Big Bang would have been the cosmic microwave background radiation. So, yeah, you'll cover that later on in year 13, if you do year 13, if you're doing the full A-level. So, how do scientists record their evidence? So, they record evidence and their findings in scientific journals. Scientific Just FYI, if you're doing A-level biology, a lot of this is going to seem very similar to some of the stuff you're going to cover in that. So what do they do with these journals and reports? So they undergo peer review. Peer review with other scientists, so they'll just basically explain their discoveries, and other scientists will agree or disagree or express their thoughts, blah blah blah. But the most important thing about their evidence and experiments, etc., is that it is reproducible. Boom. Okay, and this is so that other scientists can go and review their work and basically just go and reproduce their results. So perform the same experiments in the exact same way, in the exact same controlled conditions, so that they can obtain evidence that is similar or exactly the same, basically. And if it is, if increased evidence is made, then a scientific discovery occurs, and a theory will be accepted. So, which brings me on to my next point, controlled. It is very important that all other variables are controlled. Controlled. So, this is so that basically it helps identify whether there is a correlation or causation between two variables. Okay, so yeah, and that is how scientists carry out their experiments. You'll be using a lot of these, what I'm talking about here, in your PAG investigations, as they're pretty hot on that. For example, the criteria of providing evidence in a scientific way. When I did my PAG investigations, my physics teachers were very hot on that, so yeah. So anyway, let's turn over. Okay, so what is the point in all of this? It's based on scientific evidence. This focuses. Yes, yeah, there we go. So, there are three main factors that we need to think about. Economic, which is basically things like costs. So, for example, reducing CO2 emissions is not an easy job and it can be very expensive. So, quoting the book, well, not exactly, but quoting the book, reducing CO2 emissions, should we be spending a lot of money on that, or using that money to fund our NHS and schools for children? So, there you go. Moving on to the next factor, social. So, basically, our government makes decisions that affects the people. So, for example, making wind turbines, the people that live around that area that the wind turbines are being placed, many people say that they are ugly and can harm wildlife. So, but then again, it's more cleaner energy, which we do need because of increased CO2 emissions. So these are the kind of factors that our government and people have to consider. And finally, the next factor, this is the most important one for this course, the environmental impacts. So the reason why I say this is the most important one is because I've seen this in quite a few exam questions. So, for example, I've seen an exam question, I think it was about 2 marks, and it was asking about nuclear reactions, nuclear power stations, blah blah blah, and a bunch of like calculations and the normal stuff. But then there was a 2 marker at the end that asked to explain what are 2 disadvantages of a nuclear power station. So this is where your environmental things come in, environmental factors. So, for example, nuclear waste has a very long half-life, which, if you don't know what that is, I'll be making a video on all of this. So subscribe if you want. And it's also highly ionizing, which is very dangerous. So yes, it's very dangerous and can, well, lead to death and serious illness. So this is the kind of stuff that we're thinking about here. As I said, it's not, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but it should be known, and it's probably best to just skim through it before the exam. So yeah, there you have it. Pretty simple, nice short video. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe.